to Labor Lens. I am Sharon Ijason. On this week edition of the program, we'll be focusing on activities that shaped the year 2025 in the labor sector. We also have news stories for you. We will be right back. The 2025 Safe Workplace Intervention Project represents a strategic partnership between NECA and the NSITF, aimed at promoting compliance with the Employees Compensation Act 2010 and encouraging employers to adopt proactive occupational safety and health practice. Central to this forum is a unified message: productivity should never compromise worker safety.
200 years ago, a 10th convention was added, which is the Occupational Health and Safety Convention, to reinforce the need of occupational health and safety in the workplace. So OSH is no more an option. It's no more a necessity. It has become a fundamental part of the issues in the workplace. Some have said OSH is now synonymous with human rights, and we absolutely agree with that, because the safety of the workers presupposes the productivity of the employers. And since employers now, our focus is not profit maximization, as people used to say, but profit optimization now. So we align with the concept of OSH, we align with all the ideas that drives OSH, and that is what necessitated those before us coming up with this very important partnership between NECA and the NSITF to drive OSH and drive the conversation to very important conclusion.
Government representatives characterized the initiative as a paradigm shift, urging employers to reframe safety not as an operational cost, but as a strategic investment in people, productivity, and sustainable business growth.
A safe workplace is not optional, it is legal. And I believe that moving forward, we should also be reviewing the legal system and see how it complies with the quantum of what happens when lives are lost. I wish to reaffirm that this administration will not compromise on occupational safety and health. We are strengthening enforcement of the Factory Act, and we'll be calling you very soon to come and partner with us and make sure that those laws are reviewed and is passed with speed of light.
Government employers and workers must continue to work together to build safer workplaces and ensure that no worker is left unprotected. As a ministry, we remain fully committed to strengthening occupational safety and health systems through effective enforcement of the Factories Act, implementation of the Employees Compensation Act. Our goal is to create a work environment where every Nigerian worker can return home safely at the end of each working day.
The managing director of the Nigeria Social Insurance Trust Fund emphasized that the project reinforced the agency's mandate to strengthen social protection and accountability across Nigerian workplace.
The future of work in Nigeria will be defined by how well we protect our workforce while driving productivity and growth. And it is in that spirit that I urge us to really focus on the issues of workplace safety. I use this opportunity to call on every other organization or every organization that are yet to fully embrace the theme of safety and protection that NSITF, working in conjunction with NECA, really behoves to the industry and our employment ecosystem in general. I've always said that we should think about a country, a Nigeria, where all of our workers are adequately protected, be it in the private sector, even as we celebrate excellence in private sector today, and also in the public sector, at the subnational levels and the local government level. Compliance must not be seen as a regulatory obligation alone, but as a strategic business decision that safeguards human capital, reduces operational risk, and enhances organization reputation. Today, we also take time to celebrate organizations that have distinguished themselves through demonstrable commitment to operational safety and health. They will signal that compliance is achievable, that safety delivers value, and that excellence in workers' protection deserves recognition. Us at NSITF, we remain committed to being a responsive, solution-oriented institution that is focused on simplifying processes, improving service delivery, and supporting employers in meeting their obligations.
No nation can achieve sustainable growth where workplaces are unsafe and lives are treated as expendable. Safe workplaces are not optional. They are foundational, and every factory, construction site, farmhouse, office, and workshop must become a space where productivity thrives alongside protection.
Highlights of the forum include the distribution of essential safety equipment, fire extinguishers, first aid kits, and ambulances, alongside awards recognizing organizations demonstrating exemplary commitment to workplace safety.
Sea Hope Foundation, alongside the Nigerian Association of Women Journalists, NAWOJ, the Zone D, supported by the Rosa Luxemburg Foundation, West Africa, convened a media consultative meeting in Abuja. The engagement forms part of Sea Hope's ongoing domestic workers' rights campaign, aimed at amplifying conversations around dignity, fair treatment, and legal protection for domestic workers.
Media is a very, the media plays a very strategic role in our society, amplifying unheard voices, unheard issues, and influencing even attitude, public attitude and sentiment. This would have been prevented to a large extent. Child domestic servitude, abuse of domestic workers could have been prevented if they have unions. I don't know of Abuja, but in Lagos, almost everybody has a union.
Participants at the meeting explained how sustained media coverage can help reposition domestic workers as part of Nigeria's mainstream labor movement. Discussions also focused on the possibility of unionization and the broader need to recognize domestic work as decent work.
Some people might even know that their rights are infringed on, but they don't have the courage to even seek redress because one, they cost and all. So probably we'll see for NAWOJ we are ready to intercede in such situations, and we're also working with bodies like FIDA that we can get people who give pro bono service. But how many of such organizations is this? So
stakeholders say media collaboration is crucial to keeping the issue on the public agenda and pushing for reforms that uphold basic human and labor rights. The organizers says engagements like these are part of broader efforts to ensure domestic workers are recognized, protected, and treated with dignity across Nigeria.
On the profile interview segment this week, I'll be speaking with the Director General of the Nigeria Employers Consultative Association. He tells me what Nigerians should expect from organized private sector in the year 2026 and also evaluated policies of government in the year 2025, especially that of the Tax Reform Act. It's good to have you on the program.
Thank you once again, and compliments of this season.
It's been a while, and this program will be airing in the new year, so it's safe to say Happy New Year.
Absolutely.
Congratulations.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
A lot happened in the year 2025, and a lot will definitely still happen in 2026. Absolutely. For the organized private sector, what are your expectations, especially in terms of the policies that the government has put in place?
Well, it's been a year indeed, 2025. It's a roller coaster year. Many pluses, challenges, and one of the things the private sector have done, and we've done successfully, is to up our level of adaptability, turning seemingly difficult situations to opportunities, because you really don't have option. The other option you have is to keep complaining, and you don't survive in that having the victim mentality. So we have aligned significantly with the reforms. We have made recommendations to government all year round on the issue of the reforms. Areas that we feel the reforms is not achieving is the set objective. We have drawn the attention to government. I must commend the government, at least a couple of agencies, ministries and departments also, that have been very responsive to our issues, our complaints. We could remember vividly the challenge with the Financial Reporting Council levy. The Ministry of Industry and Investment took it up, PEPEC took it up, political stakeholders took it up, and the President magnanimously rose up and ordered the suspension of that levy. The customs and 4% FOB levy was also what we also raised concerns about. It's less about profit maximization. For us, it's more about the overall economic objective of this country. And government cannot be generating humongous revenue while its own overall economic objective of increasing GDP, having a sustainable private sector that can create jobs, and having in the context of creating jobs, you also reduce the incidence of insecurity. So you can't blind your eyes to those key issues and focus on revenue. And government also responded positively to many of those challenges. So we are looking for 2026. We hope the reforms will bear more fruits. The stability that we have witnessed, I think the vagaries, the inconsistencies in macroeconomic issues that we've seen in the earlier part of 2024, early 2025, and towards the end of mid 2025 and late 2025, there seems to be some macroeconomic stability. So we're hoping that in 2026, the gains of macroeconomic will trickle down to the microeconomy, where the citizens will now start feeling the positives of the government's activities.
It's 2026, and not just for the organized private sector. Talking about reforms, one particular topic or issue is what is going to frame at least the better part of 2026, which is the tax reform. What is the organized private sector's position as regards the tax reform? Is it a welcome development? What are your observations?
We've seen at play the massive potential of the social media to shape conversation, to sell a narration. And as someone said, what you listen to, feeds your soul and influences your perception. So if what you are listening to is erroneous, progressively it starts making sense to you. And that's what we've seen on the issue of the tax reform. We understand that there are a lot of antagonists to the reforms from the beginning. So it wasn't a matter of what was gazetted, wasn't what was passed. It was the offensive against the tax reform started from the first day. So we will not play into the hands of people we call the fifth columnists. I want to drag the system back. So there are inconsistencies which is expected, provided once humans are involved in anything. You always find mischief. You always find deliberate or unintended sabotage. It's expected once humans are involved in the crafting, in the finalization, or the admin process that will lead to the whole package. So we understand that, but that is not sufficient enough for us to remain in Egypt. So for us, for the private sector, and because we're also represented in the presidential committee, the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria, the DG represented the organized private sector in the committee, and we align with the work of the committee. The presidential committee chairman, Taiwo Oyedele, has earlier expressed concern as per the process, and we all know that, look, a bill moving from, and from our experience, we have the labor bills, we have the OSH bill, so many bills that we have seen that moved from one point to the other, and you realize that things change as it moves from one office to the other. And that was one of the reasons why we insisted, the social partners insisted, when the last Minister for Labour, Dr. Gige, said FEC has approved the labor bills. And the social partners, we insisted that, look, we need to see what FEC approved to be sure that what we discussed is the same bill that FEC approved, because we know a lot of things can happen in between. So it wasn't surprising when this happened, but the Senate has taken a decision for it to be registered. So let's start the process. The provision for amendment is always there. So when we realize certain things are not the way it should be, then we should initiate the process of the amendment. But we align with the Presidential Committee on Fiscal and Tax Reforms, and kudos to the work they've done in the context of engagement, sensitization. We've not seen that before in this country. For a piece of reform to experience that kind of engagement, it's unprecedented.
Away from the tax reform law, because I believe that we still have lots of
Absolutely.
conversation within the year as regards intricacies. 2025 for the organized private sector, especially under your leadership as Director General, was very eventful. And you hosted the DG of the International Labour Organization. What more are we expecting in 2026 as regards engagement as an employee, as representative of the employers of labor, be it in Nigeria, Africa, and beyond?
Thank you for that, for mentioning the visit of the DG. We are, with all modesty, we are proud that we were able to pull that off, bringing the DG of the ILO to Nigeria, and that's part of our contribution to deepening tripartism and social dialogue in the country. For us in 2026, if you recollect, the Labour Adjudication and Arbitration Forum metamorphosed into an international forum last year. I announced it as henceforth is going to be an international forum. So in January, come February 12th, the 4th edition of the International Labour Adjudication and Arbitration Forum will be held in Abuja. And we're having the president of the National Industrial Court of Brazil as the keynote speaker. We'll be speaking on labor justice in a rapidly changing work environment. Labor justice for employees, labor justice for employers, labor justice for government, and labor justice for the community entirely. So it's going to be an interesting conversation. And we'll also be having the president of the International Organization of Employers, Jacqueline Mugo, from Kenya, also sharing perspective. So we are mobilizing all stakeholders, social partners, and other engagements to make it a very truly impactful session. We'll also be having, we are starting a program with CISLAC. CISLAC in March, it's a reforms in focus. It's an in-focus, high-level conversation between CISLAC and NECA. That will be starting in February, March. It's going to be a quarterly program. We'll be looking at key reforms of the government and asking top functionaries in government, let's share perspective and let's get the perspective of the organized private sector, perspective of civil society on the impact of those reforms, and probably come up with communiques and alternative policy recommendations for them. We're also hoping that we'll build on the foundation we have laid with organized labor, deepening our collaboration with organized labor. There are areas, fundamental areas where we will not agree, but those areas where we can build consensus, I think we should be strengthening those areas. And definitely our employer summit, the employer summit will come up in June, and then the employers award in November. For us, I was fortunate, beyond being a member of the ILO governing body, I was also fortunate to be elected into the Executive Council of Business Africa. That's the foremost business membership organization in Africa. So for us, it's leveraging the opportunities that exist in the ILO and in Business Africa for Nigeria. And we started that in November during the governing body meeting, where we were able to broker a meeting between the Honorable Minister for Labour and the research team, the research department of the ILO. And one of the outcomes is the acceptance by the research and training department that certain training will flow into the country definitively from 2026 to train the has the capacity of the social partners. That arrangement was done in November, and I think we've sealed that. And for us is leveraging that opportunity of being in the ILO governing body to bring in a lot of definitive, not abstract, but definitive outcomes, positives for Nigeria in the context of the ILO and then business and business Africa. Also, we are looking at, and it's very important to say this, that we have not really maximized our participation in the ILO for driving investment into this country, because we have over 150 employers federations like NICA that come to the ILO every June. And these employer groups are basically the investors in those countries. The Ministry of Industry and Investment have not really explored the opportunity of NECA organizing bilateral meetings with the employers of another country during the ILO session to engage and share what are the investment opportunities exist in Nigeria. It's a veritable opportunity for us to sell this country and get foreign direct investment. Other countries are doing it, and it's part of the things we want to do. That the ILO conference is not only about labor crisis, industrial. There are massive investment opportunities that you can drive into your country through engagement in that session. One incident happened 2 years ago or last year during the negotiation of the national minimum wage. We were in Switzerland, and the lead for minimum wage negotiation in ILO was making the presentation. And I listened to the presentation. And after listening to the presentation, I called the chairman, the secretary of the minimum wage committee, chairman of National Wages and Salary Commission. So I called him from Geneva that, look, I just spoke to the head of ILO department on wages, wage setting and minimum wage. And he's somebody we think we should engage. And he said, look, is he still in Geneva? I said, yes. He said I should book an appointment for him. And in 48 hours, the chairman arrived in Geneva. And we brokered the meeting between us and the committee. So his submission also created more clarity for the chairman. And those are massive opportunities that we can leverage. And those are the things we plan to do moving forward in 2026 for the benefit of our country.
Okay, on a final note, I would like to ask, I know that you've published your position, the organized private sector's position as regards the proposed bill at the Senate as regards the Nigerian Social Security Fund bill. What is the update? What are your expectations? Were there any clarification during the public hearing?
One of the beauty of the public hearing is it gives the opportunity for us to hear our views. And we have also shared with the Committee on Labor and Employment that labor bills are driven by the tripartite. This ecosystem is unique. It is not a unilateral kind of. It's not a finance bill that government can do on its own. It's not any kind of bill. Labor bills are driven by the tripartite, and we have made it clear explicitly. Comrade Nigerians President made it clear explicitly. We made it clear explicitly that this is a labor bill, and the tripartite must drive it. So you can't be crying more than the bereaved. If it's not broken, there's no need to fix it. So we've shared our perspective. Our perspective aligned absolutely with Labour's perspective, and the Minister of Labour too. Honorable Minister of Labour also, his position during his comments also aligned with the position of the social partners. So we'll be submitting our combined position, our nice position between organized labor and employers. We're submitting it to the committee so that it can influence or aid the amendment that is ongoing. But beyond the amendment, I think it's a lesson for us that we should not wash our dirty linen in public. There's a way it works in the labor ecosystem. It is not a slight on the capacity or the right of the legislators to make laws, but it's just that in this ecosystem, the tripartite just drives it. It is what it is. Especially when those laws are rooted in ILO conventions. If you do otherwise without the input of the tripartite, then you are violating those conventions.
But would you agree that there's a need for a review, upward review, in terms of the operations that guide NFIDF?
Sincerely, from our perspective, I think the NSITF Act is not the problem. It's the people that are supposed to manage the act that is the problem, and that's the successive issues we're having. We dare say that successive government appointees from inception, except when Comrade Adam Oshiomhole was the chairman, except that time, successive government appointees to the board have different ideas of what they want to do with NSITF. But trust that the current leadership by the chairman of the NSITF, Honorable Olofi, and the versatility of the NSITF MD, I think working with social partners, we can take the context of social insurance and take it to a different level in the shortest possible time. So we are working with the MD, working with the chairman, collaboration with all the stakeholders and social partners to make sure that the right things are done and done at the right time.
Thanks very much for your time.
Thank you for having us once again, and Happy New Year once again.
And that's all we can take on today's edition of the program. Join us next week for a fresh edition of the show. I am Sharon Jackson. Thanks for watching, and remember that labor creates wealth.